Well, the New York mayoral race is heating up. The latest poll from political consulting firm Slingshot Strategy shows Democratic nominee Zoran Mamdani ahead with 35% of the vote. Behind him, former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, 25%. Current Mayor Eric Adams has fallen to the bottom at 11%. Behind longtime Republican candidate Curtis Sliwa. Guardian Angels founder Curtis Sliwa joins me now live in our studio. And Curtis, I just want to add here, you were just endorsed by the New York City Council Republican delegation. What is your strategy to stay in this race and beat Mamdani, Adams, and Cuomo?
Well, first off, I'm a major party candidate. I'm the Republican candidate that also has an independent line, first ever in electoral politics, protect animals, which will get a lot of cross-party support if you don't want to vote for a Republican. No-kill shelters and put animal abusers in jail. Okay. That's something that resonates with people. But my strategy is I'm the mayor of the outer boroughs because both Zoran Mamdani, Adams, and Andrew Cuomo, they want to basically support the developers going out there and doing away with residential neighborhoods as we know them. I'm the one defending residential neighborhoods. They call it City of Yes here. Day one, I get elected, I'm repealing the City of Yes. I'm saving the residential neighborhoods, which is where the blue-collar working class live. They're the ones who have decided to improve, not move. Look, billionaires and zillionaires, they missed the boat by backing Cuomo, and now they're on the rebound, and they're backing Eric Adams, who's last in the polls as sitting mayor?
Okay, let's talk about this. There's definitely been some infighting between Andrew Cuomo and Eric Adams on who should be on the ballot, okay? Here was what Mayor Adams told me on Tuesday on Mornings with Maria. Watch this. I want to ask you this. There are some, obviously, you've got Andrew Cuomo. You've said that he called you and asked you to drop out.
Right.
And your response was, again?
If I were to use that term on the air, they'd probably censor us. But the bottom line is, I'm the city mayor. And he set up this scenario. He knew what he was doing. He knew Mamdani was going to be on the ballot no matter what, on the working family lines. He knew I was going to be on the ballot. So why would he put himself on the ballot after the election? He should have won the primary. You don't spend $25 million, a 32-point poll lead, and feel you're not going to go out and campaign. That was wrong to do. He had his opportunity. Give me an opportunity. I'm going to win this race, and I'm going to continue the city moves forward. And for one reason only, I love New York.
So obviously he told Cuomo no. Has Andrew Cuomo asked you to drop out of the race?
First of all, he doesn't live in New York. He lives in Fort Lee, New Jersey. Everybody knows that about Eric Adams. Secondly, nobody's called me. You know, Eric Adams says he gets calls from God, you know, to tell him he should continue on in the campaign. I am in this race till November 4th. I am the designated Republican candidate. The time to have dropped out of the race would have been 2 weeks ago. Now you get matching funds, you'd have to give it all back. You're still on the line. This makes no sense. And when Eric Adams was responding to you, he was in the middle of a schoolyard fight with Andrew Cuomo. We're in the Hamptons with the rich and the privileged who have no impact on this race. Where was Curtis Sliwa? In Coney Island with the blue-collar working-class people. That's where this election will be won.
Zoran Mamdani has picked up this momentum and, again, defeated very handily Andrew Cuomo because of the issue of affordability. If you look at data from Realtor.com, the median asking rent in New York City up 5.6% right now over last year, $3,397. Landlords and real estate executives are saying, look, they're going to have to flee. They can't afford to stay. They can't afford to see this rent freeze that Mamdani is pitching, okay? And to be clear here, the rent stabilized market that's 2.4 million New York City residents that have rent stabilized. So they're thinking, great, you're going to leave me alone. But the critics and many real estate professionals saying that Mamdani is targeting the wrong people because if you put in rent freezes, those buildings are going to fall apart because those landlords, especially the smaller ones, aren't going to be able to afford the upkeep. You're going to see even worse conditions for these. So he's actually pitching something that would harm those rent-stabilized renters. I hope that makes sense, but that's what's the underlying story.
Zoran, nobody would have known who Zoran Mamdani was until Eric Adams failed as the sitting mayor. who, by the way, kept raising property taxes all the way. You had your greatest flight of wealth in the last 2 years. You had $21 billion of capital with 125,000 wealthy men and women flee to Florida. We can't blame Zorhan for that. That started with Eric Adams. So this is a continuation. This is what Democrats do. They raise fees, fines, taxes. I'll cut the property taxes, especially for the small landlords. For seniors, if you make less than $100,000, you'll pay no property taxes. We have to give relief so that people will stay and not flee. Now, I grant it. If Zoran Mandani becomes the mayor, Kurt Russell will have to come out of retirement and do the sequel of Escape from New York Part 2.
But, you know, he's also proposing to raise, well, first off, let me back up. Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman today was asked about Mamdani. I mean, this is the talk of the Democrats, and this is a national story to declare what's happening in New York, and that is why you were here on a national network. But he said he's not a Democrat. And he said for the Republicans, Zoran Mamdani is like Christmas in July because of these extreme progressive policies. I want to throw that out there. But he also is saying, I'm going to raise the corporate taxes to 11.5%. Businesses are going to flee the city. They've already, that's why you've got this amount of money. So, and you say what to that? Would you raise taxes on businesses in New York City? Do you want the millionaires and the billionaires to stay in New York City? Don't they fund services?
Of course, I'd like them to stay, but they already have one foot out the door. They've moved half their business to either Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Texas, Tennessee. They're hedging their bets. I'm more concerned about the small landlords, the mid-sized landlords, the small mom and pop shops. We walk outside of the Fox News channel here on 6th Avenue, the gateway to the world. Look at all the small stores that have brown paper on their windows that are closing each and every day.
I know.
We lock up toothpaste in New York City under Eric Adams and not criminals.
But I will say, and I talked about this with the mayor on Tuesday, I mean, crime is down. I mean, if you look at the statistics here today, I'm glad I'm entertained.
Wait a second. I'm in all 350 neighborhoods. No other candidate is there. I ride the subways every day. Find me a New Yorker who says they're safer. Are you kidding? Their number one concern is crime and the subways, and they can't go out at night. Of course Eric Adams is going to say that. He says it's a perception. It's all in our mind. Well, if you walk around with 10 NYPD armed police officers everywhere, you're going to be safe and secure. I don't have any security. And I'm the only guy who's been targeted for an attack, shot by the mob in 1992. And then here's Zoran Mandani saying everybody should have social workers, no cops. And yet, who travels with him now? Off-duty armed NYPD police officers with guns. They're all sanctimonious hypocrites. It's do as I say, but not as I do.
Okay, I will say, though, the stats do show that murders and felonies are down in the city. I just want to say that. But let's talk about something else here, because, you know, if you look at overall, let's talk about crime.
Yes.
The Guardian Angels, in particular, during the pandemic, you really reemerged on the scene, and that's when you ran again for mayor, because New Yorkers didn't feel safe, were not safe. In particular, you mentioned the subways. Here's the thing: if Zoran Mandani says defund the police, you're the anti-defund the police. Would you fund the police more? Would
of
you?
course.
Do you feel that you have support from NYPD? Do you feel that you have support
Absolutely.
from that
the men and
voting
women,
bloc?
the men and women of the department. I would hire 7,000 more police officers. Now you say hi. How? Jimmy Dolan, Madison Square Garden, pays no corporate property tax. Why? Because of his friends, the Democrats. As you know, friend of Andrew Cuomo, friend of Eric Adams. He doesn't pay his fair share. And then you have Columbia and NYU buy up private property that has nothing to do with teaching or housing of students. They're in the real estate business. Hey, Columbia, NYU, $400 million apiece. We can hire 7,000 badly needed cops that we got to get out into the streets.
Why is recruitment down for NYPD right now?
Because
They're still struggling.
qualified immunity, which is the insurance that all civil servants had, was stripped from them by Cuomo, Adams, the city council, and the state legislature. Yet they're all protected by qualified immunity.
Curtis Sliwa, come back anytime.
Oh, this is going to be a long campaign.
We've got till November.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm the Republican candidate and the only one with Republican values.
Curtis Sliwa, great to see you again, sir. Thank you for being here.
My